Enlil, a central figure in Mesopotamian mythology, stands as one of the most powerful and influential gods in the ancient pantheon. His identity and significance in the mythological world of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians are vast, spanning various realms of influence that shape not only the spiritual lives of the people, but also their very understanding of the forces of nature. Enlil was often described as the Lord of the Air, a title that reflects his dominion over the winds, the storms, and the very atmosphere itself. But his influence didn't stop at the sky. Enlil was also deeply connected to agriculture, the foundation of Mesopotamian society. It was believed that his winds played a crucial role in the fertility of the land, carrying with them both the life-giving rains and the destructive storms that could wipe out entire harvests. Enlil's role was multifaceted. He was seen as a god of authority and power, often depicted as a force that controlled the balance between creation and destruction. As the god of the wind, he was believed to possess the ability to stir storms, affecting both the weather and the fate of the crops. His breath was said to be the wind that could either nurture the land or bring devastation. This made Enlil both a protector and a destroyer, a duality that made him a revered but also feared deity in ancient Mesopotamian culture. One of Enlil's key responsibilities was his control over the agricultural cycle. Without his favor, crops could fail and famine could strike. It was said that Enlil's winds determined the success of harvests, making him a god who directly influenced the livelihood of entire civilizations. This connection to agriculture was so strong that Enlil was often associated with the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, where the majority of the empire's agriculture took place. Without his blessing, the very foundation of society, food and sustenance, could crumble. But beyond his connection to the earth and the skies, Enlil was also a god of order. His domain extended into the realm of law and governance, ensuring the stability of society through his influence. He was seen as the one who maintained the balance between the forces of chaos and order, a protector of both cosmic and earthly laws. His decisions were final, and his will, though often seen as absolute, was respected by gods and mortals alike. His title, Lord of the Air, may evoke images of a god that was distant and untouchable. But Enlil was far from being just a force of nature. He was a god who was deeply involved in the daily lives of the people. His influence was as pervasive as the winds themselves, and to the people of Mesopotamia, he was both a symbol of hope and a reminder of the uncontrollable forces that governed their world. Whether it was the nurturing rains or the devastating storms, Enlil's power was an ever-present reminder of the delicate balance between life and destruction. In Mesopotamian creation myths, Enlil plays a pivotal role in shaping the world as we know it. His influence is directly tied to the separation of heaven and earth, an act that brought order to the cosmos and allowed for the creation of a habitable world. According to the myth, the universe began as a chaotic, undifferentiated mass, with the sky, An, and the earth, Kai, closely intertwined, unable to sustain life as we understand it. This is where Enlil's intervention becomes crucial. With a divine command, Enlil separated the heavens from the earth, creating the necessary space for the development of life. This separation is often portrayed as the moment when the physical world began to take shape. By parting the heavens from the earth, Enlil brought about the conditions for the establishment of life on the planet. The sky could now be home to the gods, while the earth became a fertile ground for human civilization and agriculture. It was a divine act of organization that established the boundaries between the celestial and the terrestrial, enabling the world to function in a structured, predictable way. The act of separation was not just physical, but also symbolic, as it marked the beginning of order emerging from chaos. In addition to his role in creation, Enlil's contributions extended to the practical aspects of human survival and progress. One of his most significant contributions was the invention of agricultural tools, particularly the hoe. This tool wasn't just a practical instrument, it held deep symbolic importance in Mesopotamian culture. The hoe represented the connection between the divine and the mortal world, as it was a gift from Enlil that enabled humanity to cultivate the land and ensure their survival. It allowed people to harness the earth's resources, turning the once chaotic and barren land into a thriving agricultural hub. The hoe became a symbol of prosperity and stability, as it was directly linked to Enlil's control over the winds and weather, which in turn influenced the fertility of the land. The symbolic significance of the hoe goes beyond its utility. It embodies the idea of human progress through divine intervention. Enlil, in his wisdom and power, provided the tools necessary for human beings to thrive in a world that he himself had helped shape. It was a way of bridging the gap between the gods and humanity, showing that with divine favor, humans could transform the earth into a prosperous and habitable place. The hoe became a sacred tool, a reminder of Enlil's role as both creator and benefactor, who guided humanity in their quest to tame the land and build a civilization that could endure. In essence, Enlil's role in creation was not just about bringing order to the cosmos, but also about providing the means for humanity to prosper. Through the separation of heaven and earth, he created the foundation for life. And through the invention of agricultural tools like the hoe, he empowered humanity to cultivate that life, ensuring the continued growth and survival of the people who lived under his watchful eye. Enlil's role in the Sumerian and Babylonian flood myths is one of the most striking aspects of his complex character. In these ancient narratives, Enlil's actions reflect the delicate balance between destruction and renewal, two forces that were central to the way the Mesopotamians understood the world. The stories of Ziusudra and Atrahasis, two of the most well-known flood myths, reveal Enlil's role in divine justice, showcasing how his anger could lead to catastrophe, but ultimately lead to the renewal of life and the establishment of order. In the Sumerian flood myth of Ziusudra, Enlil is depicted as the god who, frustrated by the noise and corruption of humanity, decides to destroy mankind with a great flood. The gods, who had previously created humans to do their bidding, become disillusioned by their creations, seeing them as a nuisance rather than a blessing. Enlil, in particular, becomes enraged at the clamor of human life and the unrighteousness that has spread across the earth. In his mind, the flood is a necessary act to cleanse the earth and restore order. He sends forth the floodwaters, wiping out humanity and most life forms. But one man, Ziusudra, is warned by the god Enki, or Ea, and survives by building a massive boat to carry his family and the animals. Through this act of survival, the flood narrative begins to shift from one of destruction to one of hope and renewal. This duality of Enlil's action, destruction followed by the preservation of life, speaks to the Mesopotamian understanding of divine justice. Enlil's anger, while devastating, is not arbitrary. It is an expression of divine will, a form of justice meant to restore order to a world that had grown chaotic and corrupt. Yet even in the midst of this destruction, there is the promise of renewal. Ziusudra, like Noah in the biblical flood myth, becomes the ancestor of a new humanity, one that will rebuild and repopulate the earth with the divine blessing of the gods. Enlil's wrath is tempered by the knowledge that life must continue, and through the renewal of the earth, the gods reaffirm their power and the natural cycles of creation. The Babylonian flood myth of Atrahasis follows a similar narrative, with Enlil once again taking center stage. In this myth, the gods create humanity to relieve them of their burdens, but over time, the humans multiply and become noisy, disturbing the peace of the gods. Enlil, frustrated by the disturbances, decides that the solution is another flood. However, once again, it is the god Ea, or Enki, who intervenes, warning Atrahasis a pious and wise man, to build a boat to survive the coming deluge. After the flood, life is renewed, and the survivors are charged with repopulating the earth and ensuring that humanity does not fall back into chaos. In both of these myths, Enlil's role as the bringer of destruction is balanced by his role in enforcing divine justice and the cycles of renewal. His floods are not just acts of anger, they are part of a broader cosmic order that insists on maintaining balance. Destruction is necessary to rid the world of corruption, but renewal is equally important to restore harmony and ensure the continuation of life. Through these flood myths, Enlil's actions embody the cyclical nature of life itself. There are moments of chaos and destruction, but they are followed by periods of growth and regeneration. The flood, in a sense, becomes a symbol of this perpetual cycle, where divine justice might call for a cleansing, but the ultimate goal is always to restore balance, ensuring that the earth remains a place for life to flourish once more. Enlil's relationships with other deities in Mesopotamian mythology are both complex and essential to the cosmological structure of the ancient world. Among the most significant relationships is the triad between Enlil, Anu, and Enki, which forms the foundation of the divine hierarchy. Together, these gods represent the balance of forces that govern the cosmos, each with their own unique domains and roles. Anu, the supreme god of the heavens, is often considered the father of both Enlil and Enki, though Enlil is sometimes portrayed as the older, more authoritative figure. Anu, as the god of the sky, represents the highest celestial power, while Enlil, the lord of the air, oversees the physical world, particularly the wind and storms. Enki, on the other hand, is the god of water, wisdom, and creation, often depicted as the more benevolent force who nurtures life and brings order to chaos. Together, this triad of gods governs the balance between the heavens, the earth, and the waters, each playing a critical role in maintaining cosmic harmony. Enlil's relationship with Anu is one of respect and hierarchy. Anu's authority is acknowledged by Enlil, who executes the will of his father by maintaining order on earth. However, Enlil's power over the atmosphere and storms also grants him a level of autonomy. He is often seen as the enforcer of divine will, carrying out the more direct and sometimes destructive actions necessary to uphold the god's commands. In contrast, Enki's relationship with Anu is more intellectual, as Enki is the god of wisdom and creation, often using his knowledge to solve problems and guide humanity through cleverness rather than force. Enlil's relationship with Enki, while sometimes characterized by tension, is also one of complementary forces. Enki, who is associated with water and wisdom, is the more creative and nurturing deity, often acting as a protector of humanity. In contrast, Enlil's actions can be more severe, as he represents the law and order of the universe. While Enki provides the tools of life, such as the gift of wisdom, water, and agriculture, Enlil ensures that the world remains in balance through his control over the atmosphere, storms, and natural disasters. These complementary roles are vital to the functioning of the cosmos, as one cannot exist without the other. Enki's wisdom softens Enlil's more destructive tendencies, and Enlil's authority gives structure to Enki's creative endeavors. Enlil's relationship with Ninlil, the goddess of the air, is another key aspect of his divine character. Ninlil is often portrayed as Enlil's consort, and together they have several children who carry on their divine legacy. Their offspring include Nana, the moon god, who plays a significant role in Mesopotamian religious life, and Nergal, the god of war and the underworld, who represents the darker, more destructive side of life. Nana, as the moon god, holds sway over time and the cycles of the moon, while Nergal is associated with death and the afterlife, themes that often stand in contrast to Enlil's role as a god of life and renewal. However, both gods continue the legacy of their father Enlil, reinforcing the duality of creation and destruction that is central to his character. The relationship between Enlil and Ninlil is also symbolic of the balance between male and female energies in the divine order. While Enlil is the more authoritative figure, Ninlil complements him with her more nurturing and protective qualities. Their union, and the birth of their children, represents the cyclical nature of life and the balance between opposing forces that is essential to the functioning of the universe. In summary, Enlil's relationships with other deities, particularly within the divine triad with Anu and Enki and with his consort Ninlil, highlight the complex interplay between authority, wisdom, and creativity in Mesopotamian mythology. While Enlil may appear as the more dominant and destructive force, his relationships reveal a deeper understanding of balance, with each deity playing a crucial role in maintaining cosmic harmony. The connections between these gods reflect the idea that order, law, and wisdom are not opposing forces, but rather complementary elements that work together to shape the world. Enlil's worship was central to Mesopotamian religion, and the Ika temple in Nippur stood as one of the most important centers dedicated to him. Nippur, located in southern Mesopotamia, was considered a sacred city, often referred to as the spiritual heart of Sumer. It was here that Enlil's main temple, the Ekur, stood, a majestic structure that symbolized his divine power and influence. The Ekur was not just a place of worship, it was a symbol of the link between the divine and the earthly realms. As the House of Enlil, it served as a focal point for rituals, ceremonies, and the daily activities of priests and devotees who sought to honor the god of the air, storms, and agriculture. The Ekur temple played a pivotal role in the religious and political life of Mesopotamia. Kings and rulers often sought the blessings of Enlil before embarking on important campaigns, projects, or decisions. In fact, the legitimacy of a king's rule was believed to be directly tied to Enlil's favor. To show this, royal rituals and grand ceremonies were often held at the temple, with kings making offerings to Enlil in hopes of securing divine support. The temple itself was adorned with statues, altars, and carvings that depicted Enlil in his divine majesty. These offerings and acts of devotion were seen as a way to ensure peace, prosperity, and order for the land. Rituals at the Ekur were elaborate and deeply intertwined with the agricultural cycles that were central to Mesopotamian life. Offerings of grain, livestock, and incense were made to Enlil, often in the form of fire sacrifices, to appease him and ensure a bountiful harvest. Hymns and prayers dedicated to Enlil were recited by the priests, calling upon his favor to bring favorable winds and rain. These hymns, many of which were written in cuneiform, praised Enlil's power and his role as the protector of law and order. The rituals were both public and private, involving large crowds during festivals, as well as intimate prayers offered by individuals seeking personal blessings from the god. One of the most significant annual events in the temple's calendar was the New Year festival, known as the Akitu Festival. This grand occasion included processions, sacrifices, and sacred performances that reinforced Enlil's role in the cosmic order. During this time, the king would reaffirm his loyalty to Enlil and other gods, ensuring that the divine order was maintained for another year. The festival was a vibrant display of the relationship between the divine and human realms, and Enlil, as the god of kingship, played a central role in these proceedings. However, over time, the prominence of Enlil's cult began to wane, particularly with the rise of other deities like Marduk in Babylon. As the political landscape of Mesopotamia shifted, so too did the religious focus. Marduk, who came to symbolize not only the city of Babylon, but also the power and influence of the Babylonian Empire, increasingly overshadowed Enlil's position. This shift in power reflected a broader change in the religious priorities of the Mesopotamians, as they began to focus more on gods that represented urban development, wisdom, and protection in a new political context. The decline of Enlil's cult was also tied to the evolution of religious thought. While Enlil had once been seen as the supreme god of the Sumerians and Akkadians, as new empires rose, gods like Marduk, who were tied to the growth and power of the cities, became more prominent. The decline of the Ekur temple in Nippur and the reduced emphasis on Enlil can also be seen in the gradual fading of his hymns and rituals. As political powers shifted, so did the focus of religious devotion, with new cults and temples arising to honor the gods that reflected the changing world. Despite the decline in the worship of Enlil over time, his legacy remained an essential part of Mesopotamian religion. His role in the creation myths, his governance over the natural world, and his influence in the development of kingship continued to be recognized. The rituals at the Ekur may have diminished, but Enlil's power and importance in the religious framework of Mesopotamia remained a symbol of the ancient ties between the gods and the earth, a reminder of the delicate balance between creation, destruction, and renewal. Enlil's symbolism and characteristics in Mesopotamian mythology are rich and multifaceted, reflecting the complex role he played in both the divine and earthly realms. He is a god who embodies the forces of nature, the power of authority, and the delicate balance between creation and destruction. His symbolic significance stretches across several domains: agriculture, natural forces, kingship, and cosmic order, each of which reflects his central role in the Mesopotamian worldview. At the heart of Enlil's symbolism is his representation as a figure of authority. As the god of the air, wind, and storms, Enlil is not just a passive force of nature. He is an active agent who exercises control over the natural world and the fate of humanity. His dominion over wind and storms grants him the power to shape the environment, often determining the course of events on Earth. In this way, Enlil is seen as the enforcer of divine law, one who ensures that the natural order is upheld. His decisions, whether they result in bountiful harvests or devastating floods, reflect his role as a ruler who maintains balance in the world. This power and authority make him a fitting symbol for kingship, as rulers often invoked Enlil's favor to validate their reigns, believing that their legitimacy was tied to his divine will. Enlil is also closely associated with agriculture, a vital aspect of life in ancient Mesopotamia. The Mesopotamians depended on the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to sustain their civilization, and Enlil, as the god of storms and wind, was believed to be the force behind the seasonal rains that nourished the crops. He was seen as a god who controlled the elements necessary for agriculture, particularly the winds and rains that were crucial for successful farming. Enlil's connection to agriculture is significant because it reflects how closely the natural world and human life were intertwined in Mesopotamian thought. Without his blessings, the land could fall into drought or flood, and prosperity could quickly turn into disaster. Thus, Enlil was viewed as both the giver of life, through his control over the weather, and the protector of the earth's fertility. Beyond his role as a nurturer of life, Enlil also embodies the dual nature of creation and destruction. His power to control the winds and storms was not solely used for good. It could also be a force of devastation. This duality is most famously seen in his involvement in the flood myths, where his anger leads to the destruction of humanity in order to restore order to a corrupted world. The same God who could bring about a bountiful harvest was also the one who could unleash destructive storms that wiped out cities and civilizations. This balance between creation and destruction reflects the Mesopotamian understanding of life as cyclical, a constant ebb and flow of growth and decay. Enlil's nature as both a creator and a destroyer demonstrates the fragility of life and the need for balance in the natural world. Destruction in his domain is not seen as purely negative. It serves as a necessary force to cleanse and renew the earth, making room for new life to emerge. The dual nature of Enlil is also reflected in his character as a god of cosmic order. Enlil's role as the enforcer of divine justice meant that he was the one who could impose punishments on those who disrupted the natural order, whether through human corruption or disobedience. However, his destructive actions were always intended to restore balance, ensuring that the cosmos remained aligned with the divine will. This aspect of Enlil emphasizes the idea that the forces of nature, while unpredictable and sometimes terrifying, are ultimately part of a larger, divinely ordained system. Creation and destruction are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin, necessary for the ongoing functioning of the universe. In this sense, Enlil's symbolism can be understood as representing the impermanence of all things. His storms and floods serve as reminders that all life is subject to change, and that destruction is often a precursor to renewal. This makes him a god who embodies the deep philosophical truths of life. Nothing lasts forever, and it is through cycles of destruction and creation that the world continues to evolve. Enlil's characteristics also reflect the human experience in a profound way. As a symbol of authority, agriculture, and natural forces, he mirrors the complexities of life itself. The tension between nurturing and destroying, the control over natural forces, and the overarching sense of cosmic balance. Through his myths, Enlil teaches that while the forces of nature can be overwhelming, they are also a part of the cycle of existence, which ultimately leads to growth, change, and the preservation of order in the world. The transition of power from Enlil to Marduk as the head of the Babylonian pantheon marks a significant shift in Mesopotamian religious and political history. This change not only reflects the rise of a new god, but also mirrors the transformation of the region's political and cultural landscape. Marduk's ascent to supremacy over Enlil signifies a broader evolution in the religious focus of the Mesopotamians, driven by the changing fortunes of the city of Babylon and the shifting dynamics of power in the ancient world. Marduk's rise to prominence is most famously captured in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth. In this epic, Marduk defeats the chaos monster Tiamat, symbolizing his victory over primordial disorder. After his triumph, Marduk is granted supreme authority by the gods, becoming the leader of the Babylonian pantheon. This shift in divine power reflects the growing importance of Babylon as a political and cultural center. Babylon, under the rule of powerful kings such as Hammurabi and later Nebuchadnezzar, began to eclipse other city-states like Nippur, the traditional center of Enlil's worship. With the rise of Babylon as the dominant power in Mesopotamia, Marduk's elevation to the head of the pantheon was a natural reflection of the city's political and military supremacy. Historically, the rise of Marduk can be seen as a response to the growing influence of Babylon, particularly during the Old Babylonian period, around 2000 to 1600 BCE. As Babylon expanded its influence through conquests and alliances, the city-state's leaders sought to consolidate their power by aligning their rule with divine favor. Marduk, initially a local god of Babylon, was elevated to a national deity, symbolizing the unity and strength of the Babylonian Empire. This was a strategic move to assert Babylon's central role in the region and to create a unifying religious identity that could consolidate the various peoples and city-states under its control. The shift from Enlil, the god of Nippur, and the older, more traditional religious system, to Marduk reflects this political consolidation and the desire to present a new, powerful image of Babylonian leadership. Marduk's rise also coincided with the decline of Sumerian dominance and the fading influence of cities like Nippur, where Enlil's worship had once been central. As Babylon grew in power, the focus of worship shifted from the older gods, like Enlil, to Marduk. This transition in divine hierarchy can be understood in terms of cultural evolution. As the political center of the region moved from Sumer to Babylon, so too did religious focus. The newly dominant Babylonian culture needed a god who could embody the empire's strength, order, and authority, qualities that Marduk, the victorious warrior god, came to represent. The cultural reasons behind Marduk's ascension were also tied to the need for a unifying figure who could provide continuity and stability. As Mesopotamian society evolved and expanded, the gods of individual city-states, once seen as powerful regional figures, had to be reinterpreted in a way that could serve the needs of an empire. Marduk, as a god of creation, justice, and order, was perfectly suited to this role. His association with the cosmos, particularly through his defeat of Tiamat in the Enuma Elish, made him a symbol of both creation and control, two essential elements for an empire seeking to maintain power and order across a vast and diverse territory. Another factor in the transition of power was the decline of the older, more fragmented city-state system. Enlil had once been a central figure in a decentralized religious structure, where each city-state had its own patron god. As the political power of Babylon grew, so did the idea that a single, unifying god was needed to bind together the empire. Marduk, as the embodiment of Babylonian strength and unity, was ideally positioned to fill this role. This shift in power also reflected broader trends in Mesopotamian religion as the nature of divine authority began to change. In earlier periods, gods like Enlil were seen as powerful, yet distant, figures who maintained order through their control over natural forces. Marduk, on the other hand, was a more active and dynamic god, involved in the cosmic battle against chaos. This reflected the growing belief that the gods were not just passive overseers of the world, but active agents of change, order, and renewal. In summary, the transition of power from Enlil to Marduk was both a reflection of the political rise of Babylon and a cultural shift in Mesopotamian religious thought. Marduk's elevation to the head of the pantheon signaled the growing importance of Babylon as a political and cultural hub, and his role as the god of creation, justice, and order helped unify the empire under a single divine figure. This shift in power, driven by both historical and cultural forces, marked the beginning of a new era in Mesopotamian religion, one in which Marduk would reign supreme, shaping the religious and political landscape of the region for centuries to come. When we examine Enlil alongside other storm or creator gods from various cultures, certain similarities and shared themes begin to emerge. Enlil, as the god of wind, storms, and agriculture in Mesopotamian mythology, holds a pivotal role not only in his own pantheon, but also in the broader global tradition of storm gods. A comparison with figures like Zeus from Greek mythology, Thor from Norse mythology, and other creator gods across cultures reveals striking parallels in the way these deities symbolize power, authority, and the forces of nature. Through these comparisons, we can uncover common themes that have resonated throughout mythologies around the world. Enlil shares many similarities with Zeus, the king of the Greek gods. Both are associated with storms, thunder, and the sky, wielding immense power over the natural world. Zeus, like Enlil, is also a ruler. He governs the heavens and the earth and is considered the enforcer of divine law and order. In many ways, both gods represent divine authority, their actions determining the fate of both gods and mortals. They also serve as the central figures in their respective pantheons, with their decisions having far-reaching consequences. Zeus is perhaps most famously known for his weapon, the thunderbolt, which he uses to punish the unjust and uphold justice, just as Enlil's storms, winds, and floods can be both creative and destructive depending on his will. The similarities between Zeus and Enlil reflect a shared symbolism of power, with both gods being seen as the ultimate authorities in their mythologies, representing the forces that govern life, death, and order in the world. In Norse mythology, Thor is another storm god whose role aligns with Enlil's in some significant ways. Thor, like Enlil, is associated with thunder, lightning, and rain, and is also a protector of humans and the natural world. Thor's weapon, the Mjolnir, a hammer, is a symbol of his power and his role as a defender against chaos, much as Enlil's storms can both destroy and create, maintaining balance in the world. While Enlil's connection to agriculture and the winds highlights his association with life-giving forces, Thor's role as a protector of gods and humans in battle brings an aspect of warrior-like defense into his character. Both gods, however, are essential to the balance of nature and order. Just as Thor's hammer brings justice and protection, Enlil's winds and storms symbolize the balance between creation and destruction, ensuring the earth remains fertile and productive, or else bringing destruction when divine law is violated. One of the most striking themes shared across these storm gods is their dual role as both creators and destroyers. In many mythologies, these gods are not simply forces of destruction. They bring life and renewal through their control of the natural elements. Enlil's storms, while capable of devastation, also bring the rains necessary for agriculture, symbolizing the delicate balance between destruction and creation. Similarly, Zeus's thunderbolts might punish the wicked, but also serve as instruments of divine justice, ensuring the cosmos remains orderly. Thor, too, in his battles, upholds order in the universe and defends against the forces of chaos. This duality can be seen as a common theme in many mythologies. Gods associated with storms and natural forces often have a dual nature, embodying both creative and destructive powers. This reflects the human understanding of nature itself, its ability to nurture and sustain life while also possessing the potential to destroy. These gods personify the mysterious and unpredictable aspects of nature, serving as metaphors for the uncontrollable yet essential forces that shape the world. Another theme shared across the stories of Enlil, Zeus, and Thor is their connection to humanity. In each mythology, these gods play a direct role in human affairs. Enlil, through his control over storms and agriculture, influences the success of crops and the fate of civilizations. Zeus, as the enforcer of divine law, holds sway over human morality and the justice of the gods. Thor, though primarily a protector of the gods, also serves as a champion for humanity, battling the forces that threaten both gods and mortals alike. In many ways, these gods reflect the human desire for control over the natural world and the forces of chaos. They embody the forces that people both fear and revere, forces that can sustain life or destroy it, depending on the will of the gods. These storm gods, then, act as bridges between the human world and the divine, their actions shaping the lives of mortals and providing a framework for understanding the complexities of the natural world. Finally, justice is a key theme that connects these deities. Whether through Enlil's control over agricultural fertility, Zeus's role as the god of law and order, or Thor's protection of the cosmos, each god embodies the idea of maintaining balance and righteousness in the world. Their actions, whether destructive or constructive, are justified in the context of their divine mission to protect the natural order and ensure cosmic stability. In conclusion, the storm gods Enlil, Zeus, and Thor share common themes that reflect universal human concerns: the dual nature of creation and destruction, the relationship between gods and humans, and the maintenance of justice and order in the cosmos. These gods represent the unpredictable forces of nature and serve as metaphors for the powerful and often uncontrollable elements that shape the world around us. By comparing these deities, we can see how different cultures have approached the mysteries of the natural world and the role of divine power in shaping human destiny. If you enjoyed exploring Enlil's dramatic tales, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the ancient world. What do you think? Was Enlil's power too much to handle, or did he deserve more respect? Let us know in the comments.